One of the most underrated destinations for digital nomads, expats, freelancers, and investors, in my opinion, is Georgia. A very diverse country accommodating a range of different lifestyles and preferences, along with a number of relatively accessible residency routes and tax advantages that come for people moving there. It has started to appear on people's radar as a potential place to move to. However, some of these residency options have seen changes recently, and it does mean that the process is slightly different than before. The big question is then, is Georgia still accessible today as it was the last time I talked about it? Well, the last time I talked about it, I was joined by Lika Tsintsabadze from Nomos Georgia, a law firm established in Tbilisi, and Lika is joining me again in this video to walk through some of those changes and explain what these new requirements are and which residency routes are impacted. So I hope you enjoy this interview, guys, and with that said, let's get right into it. All right, Lika, welcome back to Millennials with Money. Great to have you back.
Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, it's been a while since we talked about Georgia, and there's been some changes since the last time we talked, so I'm interested to get into that today.
Yes, me too. So ready to give you all the information possible regarding this new changes and all of that.
Yeah, great. So before we get into the details, can you give us a high level overview of what has changed in Georgia since the last time we spoke last year?
Yes, so basically, since the last time we spoke, some of the residency options have changed. The new authorization system has been developed, and people who work here and who are freelancers, they have to do one more step towards the residence permit, and also it's kind of obligatory now to get the work permit in order to work or proceed with entrepreneurial activities. So yes, some things have been amended, and it has been a drastic change, I would say, towards the new regulation.
Okay, okay. So that's going to mainly impact digital nomads and freelancers who are looking to come and set up their operations or work from Georgia, essentially.
I wouldn't say it would affect digital nomads, because digital nomads, meaning that if they live in Georgia just to live without any entrepreneurial activity which is connected to Georgia, they're not affected. So, for example, if you were to just have your operations and your I set up in another country, and if you receive the income in another country as well, it is most likely that you won't be affected by this new change. You don't have to get work permit because you don't actually work with a Georgian company, nor you don't have any entrepreneurial activity in Georgia. So digital nomads in that sense are not affected. But yes, anyone who is connected with their work and activities with Georgia, they're affected, and they have to get work activity right plus work permit. So I'm more than happy to go into that more deeply.
Yeah, so let's do that because I mean, what you were essentially referring to there. So digital nomads can either come to Georgia on the digital nomad visa, or Georgia has a kind of a 365-day visa-free program for a number of countries around the world, which a lot of people also use as well. So who is not in scope of that, and who would have to go down this work authorization route?
Yes, so basically, we don't really have, first of all, we no longer have digital nomad visa opportunity in Georgia since for some time now. Now, and who has been affected and how to proceed with this. So basically, if you are someone who lives in Georgia, or who works under Georgian IE or any LLC as a director, or who is a freelancer and who just have a job contract with Georgian entity, they are all affected, meaning that they have to get work activity rights. The ones that do not have to get work activity rights are LLC shareholders. The ones that are LLC shareholders but are not simultaneously directors in that company, they are not affected. Also, permanent residency holders and the investment residency holders, they are not affected at all. So anyone who works with a Georgian company, doesn't matter whether they are in Georgia or in another country working remotely for Georgian companies, who are under service agreements, who have Georgian individual entrepreneurship set up, they all have to get work activity right. Now, after work activity right, it all depends whether you would need to get work residence permits. It depends on whether you live in Georgia or you don't live in Georgia. So if you're planning to relocate in Georgia, then of course you would have to get work permits as well. And depending on your passport, you may need to get D category visa first and then work permit, or just directly apply for a work permit. And for those who are not planning to relocate, just getting work activity right is enough. And you also asked about, individuals who have 1 year visa-free regime. Now, why this change happened and like what was the actual reasoning behind it was that first we had, quite a bit of amount of illegal migrants, and also, all these individuals who had 1 year visa-free regime in Georgia, they used to come here not only for touristic purposes, because this 1 year visa-free regime, by the way, is purely for touristic purposes, but they used to live and work under this 1 year visa-free regime. Now, the government knew about this loophole, but what happened was they used to, close their eyes on this. But now, because Georgia is becoming like an international hub, we have a lot of expats. This needed to be regulated. And this regulation, I would say it's not perfect. So, the way it's drafted, it's a bit ambiguous. And also there are a lot of things that is not clear and cloudy still. But generally, the reason behind it was that to regulate all those, well, first of all, illegal migrants, and second of all, the ones that were coming in Georgia to work under this 1 year visa-free regime and doing the visa runs on the border. So, and for these, 1 year visa-free regime holders, if you are a digital nomad on its, sense that you just live in Georgia and working for, foreign company and just having your income coming in a foreign account, you don't have to get this work activity right. But in my opinion, in this case, even you living in Georgia would be questionable because, if you come here and if you live for 1 year, okay, you're not a tourist anymore. So you kind of have to get some type of residence permit, right? So I would suggest for all those people to get some type of work permit or, living permit in order to avoid any sort of issues on the border. Now, on the second hand, the ones that are coming and working under 1 year visa-free regime, they can no longer do that. If they are working with Georgian company, if they are setting up IEs, LLCs, they have to get work activity right, plus work permit, work residence permit. So they kind of did what some people used to do it anyways, because we had a lot of clients who used to come in Georgia just for the purpose to get the residence permit. So by the way, for them, nothing drastically has changed, but we had category of people who used to come in Georgia just to, stay here without any permit and work. So for them, of course, it's a bit of hassle because they need to get all this paperwork done. And by the way, getting the work activity right is not complicated procedure. It's pretty straightforward and direct. You just go in online system and you fill out the application form. You have your interview set up and you just go through with it, and then you are approved. If your business plan and activities are aligned with Georgian government's priority activities, meaning that we have some activities which individuals cannot get the work activity for, like being a courier is no longer an option, being a taxi driver is no longer an option, we have some, being a tourist guide is no longer an option. So, but for the entrepreneurs and for your viewers, I think I think it's not going to be too complicated because this, uh, these steps, you have to do it in any other country. So Georgia just made it clear that, in my opinion, that if you're coming to work, just might as well get work permits. And also, it's for your viewers, again, it's also mean, secondary residency option, which I think some of your audience members are actually looking for. So it's not something that, all the people are looking for and all the individuals want, but it's something that it's a must now in Georgia.
So it's more, from what I understood, it's more of a formality and an extra bureaucratic layer rather than an outright change, from what you're saying, with
Yes.
some restrictions with what you said regarding the
To
professions
be
that are
totally
allowed.
honest with you, we are still in the transitional period, so I cannot tell you exactly how would the application approvals uh, be easy or no. The application itself looks okay, meaning that it's easy to go through. But then I don't know, after the interview, we for our clientels, we still have not got any answer yet. So we are still in the transitional period. So we still have to find out whether whether this would be like a simple process to go through, or it's something that could be a bit more complicated, because of course on the interview they can still say that, okay, we're not granting you work activity right because your activities are just not aligned with our perspective. So that's something that they still have in their power. If they're going to use that power in order to block some applicants, I still don't know. I don't think so, but we'll see. We'll see how
Okay. Okay. It's a good update to have, nevertheless, because I'm sure, yeah, it's something people looking at Georgia will need to keep in mind.
Yes, yes, of course. But to be honest with you, and I'm not saying because to attract more foreigners coming here, but I'm just saying it's not going to be that complicated as people see it. It's just something like updates are always, shock shocking for for the people who live here. But to be honest, it's not something to be afraid of or to be too concerned about.
Okay, great. So obviously, some of the people who want to go down the entrepreneurship route will need that work authorization, but they'll also need to set up like a Georgian company, or it might be something that they're looking at doing. So, are there any changes to the requirements there in terms of minimum capital, in terms of the process of setting up a company in Georgia?
Yes, no, actually, absolutely not. Basically, law on entrepreneurs have not changed at all. So we have the same requirements for company formation. It is as easy as it was to set up a company, so we can do it remotely or on site. And it only takes one business day to set it up. Though, in order for you to start the operation, you will need work activity rights, so your work and activity authorization, and it is the only added on we had since the last time we met. And to be honest with you, it's just as simple as it gets. You open the company, whether remotely or on site. You set up your bank accounts, business bank accounts, and you acquire any tax advantage that you qualify for. And after that, you just go into the online platform and you apply for work activity right. And then once you are approved, you may start your business. The ones that want to get work permit as well, they need to come to Georgia and to get work activity. Well, after getting work activity right, they have 10 days to acquire work permit as well. So.
Yeah. Perfect. And can you remind us what the minimum capital is and what the taxation,
Uh,
how business taxation works?
Yeah, so we don't have minimum capital requirements for LLC, for regular LLC. We don't have minimum capital requirements for individual entrepreneurs. And how taxation looks like is for an LLC, it's 15% tax of corporate tax and 5% dividends. For personal income, PIT is 20%, and 2 plus 2% is for the pensions. Now, for the IE, if you qualify under small business tax status, you may qualify for this 1% tax, which everyone loves, and they come and move in Georgia just because of that. So, and this 1% IE small business status is for individuals who are doing IT, individuals who are doing, marketing, producing, writing. So there are a few activities which you can choose from and acquire this 1% tax status, though we have a threshold here. So your activity should not exceed $500,000 which is approximately 180,000 USD. So this is something to also consider.
Okay, that's quite a generous threshold as well. Thinking
Yes,
about, yeah,
it's
yeah,
not really
good.
small business. If you think about it, it's not that small as it sounds like.
So we've talked about people who want to come via like an entrepreneurship or a work permit route to Georgia. Now there's an investment option as well for residency in Georgia. Are there any changes on the residency by investment?
So I'm going to start with the changes in the investments. So basically, we have new IT residence permit. By the way, anyone who is interested in this, they can acquire once having 25,000 USD turnover, they can apply for IT residence permit, which is for 3 years. So it's no longer temporary residency, and it's kind of on a hierarchy of residency. So IT sector is quite a priority for Georgia at this moment. Now, the second part here is that investment residence permit holders, so the ones that acquire residency through 300,000 USD investment, they are exempt from any work migration law changes. So it's also on the hierarchy on residency. So they are almost becoming like permanent residency holders. So they are equal on that sense. And now acquiring the property, it has also changed. And if previously we had 100,000 USD, now we have 150,000 USD in order to acquire 1 year residence permit. But by the way, recently we had this case where we applied with 100K investment and we acquired 5 years residence permits, and it was almost like a surprise because some of our clients do get really good treatment from the government sometimes, or they get just lucky. So I wouldn't say that 150,000 USD investment only gets you 1 year residence permit. If you get lucky enough, then you can acquire 5 year residence permit with just that amount of investment. But generally, 5 year residence permit comes with 300K investments. So
Okay. Okay. So I think similar thresholds to before, apart from the 1 year permit. And yeah, it's interesting the case by case basis that you said there that they can
yes,
change.
yes, it is because like by law, it says it gives you like 1 year residence permit and you have to renew each year. But then we have cases where with just 100K, we are getting to 5 year residence permit. So it's like maybe it's about the application and how we apply, but still, it's a bit of luck in that as well.
Okay. Okay. Good. Yeah. And are there other investments as well, like investing in a Georgian company that could get you residence through that route?
Yes, yes, absolutely, of course. So basically, it's not investments. If you think about it, it's about your turnover and how much turnover you really have. Now, because of this change and because, if you don't really work, just opening the company only to get the residence permit is, I think, is no longer an option because yes, you will acquire 1 year residence permit, on your first try, but then you have to renew And on the renewal, they will ask you to get work activity right again, and they will ask you to provide the turnover. And there is a minimum turnover per foreigner year on the yearly basis, which is 50,000 gel, approximately 17,000 USD. Of course, it's the cheapest option for residence permit, but I think if you don't really have business activities, then I wouldn't do it. And I would just stick to the actual investment plan rather than just opening the company to get the residence permit, because as of now there are so many ads on on work residency that I would just skip it if I don't want to do an actual LLC work activity plus business activity in Georgia.
Could someone invest in an existing company and obtain residency through that route as a passive investor?
No, actually, it's not. Well, if the audit, so we have to do the audit of your investment. So if the audit says, and we had this, that you are an investor who invested in a company, then yes, there is a chance you can get investment residence permit. But to be honest with you, you are looking at more like work residency as a shareholder more than investment residency. If you were to invest more than 300K in the company, that we would hire an audit who would calculate how much you have actually invested. But well, generally real estate investments have more chance in getting this rather than, or we had an example where our client investment in governmental bonds, and then they acquired investment residency as well. So not only real estate, but definitely the easiest one to appraise and easiest one to evaluate for the investment purposes.
Okay, great. So bringing all of these updates together, Lika, back when we did the video last year, my conclusion was that Georgia is a country that can attract a wide range of different profiles, investors, depending on personal circumstances. I believe that's still the case, in spite of these updates. Would you agree?
Totally. And it's more than that. So basically, because there was a lot of requests, they regulated more. And I think it happens all around the world where they're just closing the borders. Georgia has not closed the borders, and they still added on so many things to it, like IT residence permits, and the taxation hasn't changed. It's still one of the lowest and only territorial tax country within the whole Europe. So we are still with the index on a higher level. So, but they had to do this, in my opinion, in order to regulate some more. They didn't do the best job with regulation and how they drafted the actual law, but still the idea was, in my opinion, as a lawyer, it's correct. So basically, if you want to work, they're not making, they are, of course, you would need to go through more paperwork, but generally it's just one interview, it's just one application. So, and then many of my clients, like 90% of my clients having an LLC or individual entrepreneurship, they actually wanted to get the work permit. So I think only this change really affected only those 10% who didn't want to get any sort of permit in the country, which I think is okay because the law at the time permitted that, but now it just doesn't permit that. So if you want to work, just get the work permit. If you want to proceed with entrepreneurial activities, just get this work activity right. And work permit if you live here. If you don't live here, no one's asking you to get work permit, only work activity rights, which is basically you explain what you do, what is your business plan, and yeah, it's pretty much it.
Fantastic. Yeah. So Georgia is still an attractive option for many people looking to move there, which is great. And I totally agree as well, having visited a number of years ago. I need to come back and visit again sometime soon. But yeah, fantastic. And thank you, Lika, for these updates. Really great to hear. If you're interested, guys, in relocating to Georgia, setting up a company there, then we'll leave Lika's contact details in the video description, so you can reach out, and be sure to say that you came from Millennials and Money as well.
Thanks so much.
So I hope you enjoyed that, guys, and found it informative and useful. Leave a comment and let me know what you think, if you're still interested in moving to Georgia today, and what draws you to Georgia. And if you like this video and you want to see more Georgia related content, then be sure to check out these two videos here. Till next time, I'll see you on the next one, and let's get this money.